I was formerly a CEO of an assessment company. We had an assessment platform, and underpinning assessments is competencies. What are you trying to measure? What are the knowledge, skills, behaviors that you're trying to measure? That's what an assessment platform is about. So after stepping down from that role, I wanted to do something that was a little different and try to bring a model together, which is the model you're showing in the background, the talent transformation pyramid. And we then saw this against the background of the fourth industrial revolution. So there's a lot of things have been changing because of AI and automation. So first industrial revolution was about machines. Second industrial revolution was about standardization. Third industrial revolution was about computers and technology. And now we're going to the fourth industrial revolution, which is about the use of AI and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So seeing artificial intelligence growing, we're going to see a change of the use of what we do as individuals. So we're going to do different tasks. And so organizations need a handle on, well, what tasks are people going to do and what tasks are computers and automation going to do? And then, and as an individual, we want to kind of look at our careers and say, well, I don't really want to go to college and learn something that a computer is going to do in a couple of years. I want to do something that, you know, and so what are those kind of 21st century skills? Well, it's around cooperation and collaboration and creativity and such. And really, William, those should be taught in our schools, but our schools, colleges, universities, some of them have been stuck in the past. They got a great business model 100 years ago of taking people from the farm to the factory and then the factory to the office. And that business model kind of made sense. But now there's all of these new skills, and we're kind of going to have to disrupt our education systems so that we're educating people on the tasks that will exist in the future and that will not be done by computers. So this centers around competencies. I said the second industrial revolution was around standardization. So how do we make an agile system that uses standards at its core? And so a lot of my work has been working with data groups or best practice groups so that we can ease this process of developing competency definitions so that we can work in harmony with machines rather than competitively with them. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned like the second industrial revolution. And I myself, until you spoke to me about this, and I believe a lot of people just believe there was only one industrial revolution, and now we're speaking about four. Can you expand a little bit more about this standardization part of the revolution, of the industrial revolution, that you are assuming that we are doing a similar thing now with competency, standardizing that? Can you expand a little bit more so we can understand what we are proposing here?
Yeah. So the first industrial revolution was us being able to harness steam and harness energy. So we dug coal from the ground, we heated up metals. There would be someone in a blacksmith store, shop, workshop, and they would bang metal into shapes. And but if somebody was making a steam engine on one end of the country, somebody else would make it completely differently at the other end of the country. I mean, the basic principles would be the same, but they would be developing their own wheels, their own belts, their own chains, all of these things, because they were all custom made. So the first industrial revolution replaced manpower with steam power. And of course, electricity came along, and so we did that. But Henry Ford is often credited with doing the production line, but the production line only made sense when you had standardized parts. So if you had a standardized screw and a standardized nut and a standardized piece of metal, a 2-inch square piece of metal or such, then the production line could work. But if you had to have people in a blacksmith workshop creating on a lathe, creating screws individually, creating screws with different threads, you couldn't mass produce, and it was that mass production. As another example, I've used mechanical examples there, but another one is electricity distribution. You're too young to remember, but about 100 years ago or so, there was a dispute whether should it be 240 volts or should it be 110 volts? Should it be AC, alternating current? Should it be direct current? And they have advantages. Alternating current is easier to transmit at a distance. Lower voltages are less dangerous, but you need a higher amperage. So there was a lot of arguments between the entrepreneurs at the time, and then each country ended up kind of having its own standard, which meant you could power generate, you could then distribute it, and you could use it in a reasonably standardized manner.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were not like biting your nails 100 years ago, whether like what type of energy system we're going to adopt. But I get your point. But I get you. Like we had this standardization phase, and that led to a lot of flexibility and wide adoption and the possibility of this high level of production that we see now. And but how does that apply now for competency models? Like, is that really a similar thing? Like, can we standardize that and we have like size of screw thing for the competency? How can that work?
So it works because data is becoming a method of communications. So if we have one group speaking in Portuguese and one speaking in English, there's going to be confusion. And so having a standardized data model allows two groups or multiple groups to communicate effectively. So this is where standardization is going to help us. Now, one of the challenges that we have is that businesses, workplace organizations struggle to communicate the competencies that they want our education systems to provide. So they might say, we need 21st century skills. And the school, the college, university might say, well, what do you mean by that? And so to actually define, we need people to be able to understand cooperation, collaboration. We need people to be creative. We need these. Now they can start defining those, passing a data model to education. Now education can take that data model and start building a curriculum, start building learning materials, whether it's instructor-led or online. And by making them at a certain granular level, you can find them. You can find these competency definitions online and say, oh, I want to learn about creativity. What is it? How do I become creative? Okay, well, here's some data that will explain to you what's expected in the world of creativity. And now I can say, oh, that's the kind of job I like. I now know which learning I should be doing in order to improve this area of. So the standardization will enable new kinds of businesses. So career planning businesses. So now what could happen is that an individual could take an assessment to understand their personality traits, their social emotional intelligence, and their strengths. And then they could go out and look at these with the use of apps and artificial intelligence. Say, what are the jobs that are available to me that are existing now? Because I want a job right now. Or I'm doing career planning. What are the jobs in the future that will need these kind of knowledge, skills, and abilities, so that I can then study for them now and develop my earning capacity, my contribution to society. So we'll see that by having these standardized models, we can exchange data between different organizations. They can share a common understanding. So now what schools will teach is what the workplace can consume, and individuals can start planning their careers to have a fruitful future rather than be stuck.
Yeah, I would love course to be less to diminish the procrastination. That would be great.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can do that tomorrow.